Hi everyone, welcome back to the Crafty Author. My name is Anissa. I am the Crafty Author, and today we are going to be working on our sawtooth star quilt that we started months ago, and I am going to be showing you how we put this together using the Quilt As You Go method. Now, I am using strips to do this. It's not my favorite thing to do. There are a bunch of different ways that you can do quilt as you go, but this is how we're going to do this particular, this piece, or this is how we're going to attach our quilt together. And I have gone and I have finished quilting all of my blocks. All 20 of them are now nice and quilted. You can see all that quilting that I did there. Turned out pretty amazing, I must say. So we are going to get started. So for the quilt as you go method, you need to cut out your strips. And I'm going to be using the same color that's in my background on my stars and also on my backing. And so I'm going to be using this color. I have cut a 1-inch strip for the front and a 2-inch strip for the back, which I then ironed in half. So you should have something that looks like this. So this is going to be very thin, and I really like that. I don't want to be working with a bigger strip. However, you can. So if you wanted to put bigger strips on your quilt, you certainly can. That's a preference. So you would just have to measure out and figure what's going to work best for you. I can't give you those dimensions because I'm not working with the bigger strips right now. So just play with it and you'll come up with something. So 1 inch, 2 inches folded in half, ironed in half, okay? You're gonna need a lot of these strips because you're gonna be putting all of your blocks together. So I've already done one, so I'm gonna show you what it looks like. So I've already put one together. And I like to use decorative stitches for this. As you can see, I'm using like a squiggly line. I think it's called the serpentine stitch. And this is what it looks like on the back. Now, I did 3 of them because I just think it looks really cool. You can do as many as you want. You don't have to use decorative stitches. I just find that this is a really good time to use those because it makes the strips look kind of cool, like they belong there. So I love it. And as you can see, I did use the rest of those pinwheels on the backing side. So all 4 of my corners have those. So it looks really neat. So I'm going to show you how we put this together, and it's going to be easy peasy. All right, so today we're only going to be focused on joining the block together, the blocks. Because I have 20 of them that I need to piece together. So next week we will focus on joining the rows together. So if you already know how to do this and you want to skip ahead, then that's fine. But I want to show you step by step how I go through this process and add this in. So that's what we're going to do. So first things first is I'm going to take my 1-inch strip right here, and I am going to place this on my front side of my quilt top. Now, there is some thought that people want to cut this to fit the right exact size at 12 inches. I like to do mine a little bit bigger because there can be some movement when you're sewing, and I always trim off when I'm done afterwards. So for me, I prefer to leave a little bit longer, okay? Again, you have to figure out what you like to do best, what's easiest for you to do. I just find that when I measure it absolutely perfectly, I end up coming up short or something. It's just the way I sew, I guess, maybe. And everybody has different ways of sewing, so that can be an issue. So just, you know, I wouldn't have like this big long tail like I have here. I'm just gonna trim that like that, and then I just have a few little, you know, like a little inch off of each side. So that way if it does move, then you know what, it's not that big of a deal to me. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip this over just like that, right? And now I'm going to take my 2-inch. You want to make sure that this part is laying completely flat. You don't want anything flipped up because it can show through when you're doing it. So I'm going to take my raw edge and I'm going to put it to the raw edge, and then I'm just going to clip. You can also use pins for this. I actually like the clips for this. Makes it, I think, just a little bit easier, and I find that it lays flatter in using clips. But if you don't have clips, you can either use pins or you can use clothespins. Those work very well too. All right, so again, I'm going to trim this tail off that I have here. Okay, and now you should have something that looks like this. So you should have one side with your 1-inch and then your other side with your 2-inch that's folded in half. I always put the 2-inch that's folded in half on the back side. I don't know why, I just do that. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna come back over to my machine and I am going to stitch this down with 1/4 inch. I am using a walking foot, and I am setting my stitch to 2.4. Okay, so here we go. I'm gonna just flip this over so that I can see. So now I'm gonna just use the edge of my foot here, and I'm gonna stitch down 1/4 inch. And I am going to do a little bit of a back stitch, and then I'm just going to continue to sew down. Putting these down, the strips. And I'm going to back stitch right here too. You don't have to do that. I'm just doing that because I prefer to do it. I'm at my pressing board here. So now I'm going to take my iron and I am just going to press this top one. I'm going to just press this flat. And I'm not going to press the back one yet. And the reason is because we need to attach our next block to our strip. So what I'm going to do is put that strip right here, raw edge to my strip's raw edge, the one that we just pressed, okay? And so I want to make sure that these are even too, that these blocks are even, because you don't want to have your blocks being crooked. And so I do like to clip here. So I will clip the top piece, and I'm going to clip my bottom piece as well, just to hold that in place. Now I'm going to kind of flip this over here so that I can see where I need to clip my strip to that block that I'm going to sew this onto now. And we're just going to do it like this. It's pretty simple. You know, once you get going, you'll get the hang of it. It is a little bit wonky though. It feels a little bit strange at first putting a quilt together like this, but it's a great alternative method. All right, we're ready to sew it down. Okay, so now we're just gonna sew 1/4 inch all the way down. Just got the edge of my walking foot right on that edge, and I'm just stitching it down. And it's done. Okay, and now we can take these other clips off that we clipped together. And now we can open up our piece. Okay, so you can see that we've gone ahead and done that now, and I'm going to show you what it looks like on the front side. So that's what you have. You can see where our strip is right there, all the way up. It turned out really great. So now we need to focus on the back. And what we want to do is we want to take that flap that we have from our other strip, and we want to put this on the back here. So I'm just going to fold my strip over, and I'm going to take my iron, and I'm going to press and press and press. And you can use glue if you want to press this down, or you can use heat and bond. It'll help it to stay, or you can pin it. I will probably just go ahead and clip mine. I'll just clip down here, and then I'm going to clip up here at the top. The pressing seems to do pretty well in holding this together, because I'm just going to go over to the sewing machine now right away, and I'm going to stitch this down. All right, so I have my serpentine stitch set, and I am going to just stitch straight down the middle right now. So there's the first run that I've done. Now I want to make sure that this stays down. If you were using a different stitch, then you would want to be making sure that you are stitching down, because you don't want this to be loose, because you don't want anything to come up, okay? So this flap needs to be stitched down. You can hand stitch it also. So if you used a designer stitch or something from your machine, and you had this open, you could certainly stitch that down afterwards. So it just depends on whatever you want to do. Okay, so now I'm going to line my foot up on the edge here, and now I'm going to seal up that part that I just told you about, that little flap. And whatever you do to that side, you want to do to this side. At least I do. So that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to stitch down along this edge now. Now this edge doesn't really need it. I'm just doing it for decorative purposes, because I want the 3 lines on my strip. All right, and now I'm going to show you the reveal. All righty, so it turned out really great, and I'm going to show you. So this is what we have now that it's starting to be attached and come together. You can see how cool it looks. Now I do want to point out that when you are stitching using Quilt As You Go and you're doing strips, sometimes your stitching can go over on the other side, okay? If you don't like that, then you need to be very, very careful what you're doing, okay? So if you don't like that look, then I would recommend hand stitching the back. I don't mind that because I feel like it gives a quilt character. So I'm gonna leave it. But as you can see, I've got my 3 lines on there, along with all my quilted stuff. And so yes, I think it just adds a little bit of character to the quilt. See, this one it didn't quite do it on, but this one it did. So, you know, it just depends on what look you're after. This quilt is going to be going to my husband, and he's gonna like that even more, I guarantee you. So, and once it gets washed, it's not gonna matter because it's probably not even gonna really be noticeable, to be honest, you know, because everything scrunches up and whatnot. So I don't worry too much about it. Same with the chalk lines. Once I wash, those are all gonna come out. I have some also where I did this quilt is kind of a it just is what it is, you know. It has a lot of mistakes in it. It's made with love, which is all that matters. It's going to be very, very warm in the winter time. And so, you know, it was my first time doing ruler quilting on it. So I have a lot of mistakes on here, and it's okay. You know, some quilts are like that. Those actually turn out to be the best quilts that I find, because then you go and you look at them after about, oh, I don't know, a couple years, and you're like, wow, I really did a cool job on that. So yeah. This one though, I do want to show you, I really did mess up on the ruler quilting with that. You can see the center. And yeah, that one's pretty messed up. It should look more like this. And again, you can see where I went out of the lines. Now you might be asking, why are you showing us all of your mistakes? Well, I'm showing them to you because I want you to know that it happens. It's not everything is perfect. So if you've done a quilt and you're seeing all the mistakes that you've made, don't worry about it. Don't focus on it, because it's gonna turn out great and you should still finish the quilt, okay? I know a lot of people get really hung up on that. I have been one of those people before. So I don't want you to not finish a quilt just because, you know, it's got a lot of mistakes in it. So it doesn't matter. So let me tell you what I'm going to do with this one to correct it, since this one is so noticeable. All right. I'm actually going to stick a button in the center of that, and that's going to become my centerpiece in the quilt. And that's how we're going to take care of that problem. I was going to put buttons in each one of these, but my husband was like, no, that'll make it look too girly. He likes these smaller buttons. I don't know if I have a smaller black one, but I'll show you why I liked it so much with that button. I thought it looked really cool. He said no to this button, by the way. It has to be a small button. But if you look at that, you see how cute that is? Look at that. Looks like a flower. Oh, I love it. He said, no way, Jose. Okay. So, anyway, that is it for me today. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial on how to attach the blocks with Quilt As You Go. If you would like to follow me on social media, the links are down below in the description box. Don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, and because it helps other people see the video. And also don't forget to share, because sharing is caring. And what else do I have? I don't think I have anything else for you. Just don't forget to click that little bell and subscribe. You'll get notified each and every time I upload a new video. And keep on crafting. This is what we have for our beautiful quilt so far. I'm loving it. I hope you do too. I'll see you next time on the Crafty Author. Bye!